Thousands of Haitians, meanwhile, are being released into the United States. It comes as the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas is insisting that the border is closed. Now, look at this border situation that we have right in front of us. Mayorkas is declining to give an estimate on the migrant numbers, and this happened all yesterday as it became a heated Senate hearing. Watch.
How many people have been returned? How many people are being detained? How many people have been dispersed to all points around America?
Senator, I would be pleased to provide you with that data.
I want them now. Why don't you have that information now?
Senator, I do not have that data.
Why not?
For me.
Why don't you have that basic information?
Joining me right now is former U.S. Acting Attorney General Matt Whitaker. Matt, it's great to have you this morning. Thanks very much for weighing in. What was Senator Ron Johnson interviewing Mayorkas yesterday? Would Mayorkas have that information at the ready? I mean, look, would he understand the situation clearly sitting there? Does he have numbers to share that he just didn't want to? What's your take?
Yeah, he better have those numbers as the leader of DHS that's charged with, protecting our border. Our own eyes are telling us what's happening. You have people transiting easily back and forth. Some of them it appears to be carrying takeout food from the Mexican side back to their, shanty town under this bridge. It's, it's really a failure of leadership at the White House and at DHS with how they are allowing these immigrants to come across the country illegally and really then releasing them, quite frankly, into the interior of the United States without COVID tests or without really anything but a notice to appear.
Well, Matt, I mean, what kind of situation is this in terms of legality? Look at these pictures. Crowds of people coming into the country every day. They are traveling through the river, across the road to Texas and waiting there. I mean, this does not look like America. What are the legal ramifications here?
Yeah. Well, first of all, each one of those people coming to the United States is either committing a misdemeanor or a felony if they've come here before and been deported. But, really what's happening is this administration is ignoring the law. Whether it's to remain in Mexico as part of the asylum process or whether it is, return to, their home countries. What's happening is not only are they processing these people and then allowing them to come in, but they're also, it appears, putting them on flights and sending them all over the country to be processed and then released where we can't see it on our cameras and TVs at home. I mean, Fox is really the only one covering this right now, and it's not only a crisis. I mean, this is being shot and sent around all over the world. There are, whether it's Haitians today, it'll be the next country that decides to, essentially fly to our southern border and then walk across. We have to get control of this, and DHS is, with Secretary Mayorkas, I think, is unwilling or unable to get control of the situation.
I mean, it's all extraordinary. The administration blowing off the law, blowing off the Supreme Court like it's done multiple times in this last 8 months. The media not reporting what's happening on our borders. I mean, shameful. It's all extraordinary. And then, of course, there's the lies and what has taken place in terms of the politicization of our agencies. Senator Johnson also pressed FBI Director Christopher Wray at the Senate Homeland Security Committee hearing yesterday. He pointed to Michael Sussman's indictment. This is, of course, Hillary Clinton's lawyer from Perkins Coie. He was indicted for lying to the FBI in 2016 about the Russia hoax. Johnson also questioned how the FBI was not aware that Sussman was connected to Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign as he attacks her opponent. Matt, you lived this. We talked about this a lot during the 2017, 18, and 19 timeframe when the whole country was up in arms about Trump colluding. What are your thoughts on this story? And were you surprised to see John Durham indict Michael Sussman?
I was, but I also think it is showing and demonstrating the success of that investigation. He is getting to the bottom of the origins. And what were the origins? It was the creating a false narrative that there was some connections or relationship between Russia and the Russian government and the Trump campaign. And this is one example. What Sussman did with taking information that was false quite frankly. In addition to not disclosing who his client was, this information was essentially created out of nothing, some random internet traffic from spam emails that somehow was used to connect and then presented to the FBI to cause them to look into it and to start an investigation. Then that was immediately disclosed to the media, who ran with it happily. I mean, it is, I hope and I know John Durham is going to get and explain all of this, and anyone that can be held criminally accountable is. And I think Mr. Sussman is one of several that should be ultimately charged with creating this false narrative.
It's just extraordinary that Hillary Clinton's team comes up with this lie against her political opponent, drops it on the laps of the media, they run with it, and it basically takes over. It just takes on a life of its own. Matt, do you think we're going to see more indictments from John Durham? And do you think we're going to see any big fish? I'm talking about big fish from the FBI.
Yeah, that I don't know. I mean, obviously, the deputy director probably should have been charged in what he did. I mean, there are several dominoes that I think are still left to fall. Yeah, I'm talking about Andy McCabe. That was obviously declined ultimately, and I think that was really a shame what happened in that circumstance. But I think, whether it's at the FBI, whether it's within the intel community more broadly, I think there are those that participated in creating this narrative the precise evidence is not known, so it's hard for me to judge that. But if they can be charged, it's pretty clear that John Durham's going to charge them.
All right. We will keep watching that. Matt, good to talk with you this morning. Thanks so much.
Thank you,
Matt
Maria.
Whitaker joining us.